episode of Off the Deep End. Today, I'm delighted to bring you the gentleman who's responsible for introducing me to a few of the amazing people I have featured on the show recently. Welcome, Abie Gabor. So glad to have you, Abie.
So great to be here.
We've
So great to
had
be
this
here.
scheduled a few times and we finally are pulling it off today. So really looking forward to having you share what's on your mind, what's on your heart about your life story and about where you are today and anything else you'd like to share.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Such an honor to be here. So happy that you're having me. It was so great meeting you. Uh, Not all that long ago, but in a very short period of time, we've gotten to know each other well, and I look forward to that continuing forever. With that said, Um, I am Abie Gabor. I had the pleasure of meeting Rachel Tamilio at a Zoom networking event, which is very commonplace, at least in my world, post-pandemic. And I personally love it because I feel like made the world a lot smaller. And all of a sudden, you're getting to meet people all over the place. And where we are doesn't matter anymore because we get to communicate in a way that we never were able to communicate before. I love the visuals and doing it the way we are, so much more than back in the day when we were using something called the telephone to communicate. With that said, so let me give you a little background so everyone, for those that don't know me, learn a little bit about me, and so that we're not strangers here. Abie Gabor, born actually in the state of Israel. When I was 6 months old, my family moved to the United States when I was at the ripe young age of 6 months. The son of two Holocaust survivors. So there are not that many of us first generation on both sides children like I've had. And I bring that up because I had a very interesting perspective of life from a very young age that I never really realized till a little later in life. And I'm going to kind of bring this all together in our conversation. So, the household that I was in, my parents came from a place of, they lost a lot of friends, family during the Holocaust, but and they met actually in Israel in the mid 50s. And they both had the attitude of they were just grateful to be alive. And jealousy was one thing my father always told me was the worst thing that anyone could have. The worst disease is the disease of jealousy. So, and they were always happy with whatever they had, and very hardworking. Moved many, many times. So from Europe to Israel, started all over again. And then from Israel to the United States, started all over again. Serial entrepreneur. What he taught me was, what he always wanted for me was to be self-employed, to be my own boss. So that was just something that I was taught through my childhood. And luckily, I was able to do that. Fast forward now. So I just wanted to give you that background on myself so you know where I came from or some of the roots that have led to my personality now and so on and so forth. So graduated from college, started working in my family business with my dad. My dad passed 22 years ago. My mom, forever grateful, is with us today, still 96 years old. So I was partners with my brother and my father. We had a food business that supermarkets that we owned and ran, had many employees. Then at some point of my life, I was actually going to go to law school, work in real estate, and I was doing that for a while. And it was the summer so I actually got into law school and I was going to go. And the August before the September that I was going to start, can't remember what year that was. I was still working um, in the supermarket world, but also doing the real estate. And I realized that I was spending less and less time on the retail side and more time on the real estate side. I realized I missed being around people and I missed the uh, business side of what I did, and I decided not to go to law school because my the purpose was to use that degree for the real estate business that I was in. I was very happy to have made that decision at that point. For a number of years, I went off on my own in the supermarket world, bought my own, uh, broke partnerships with my father and brother, not for any other reason other than I just wanted to be on my own. And then years later, we got back together again and we worked together. We collaborated and combined a couple of stores together as a joint collective for all of us. Um, and I did it for 33 years, but there was an occurrence that happened, excuse me, that changed my life forever. Yeah, on February 22nd of 1994. So, that happened to be my mother's 65th birthday. I was driving from one of our stores, which was in Long Island, New York. These stores were in metropolitan New York, um, to another store in Queens. Sunny day. We had a lot of snowfall that winter in New York. So there was a lot of meltdown on that day. A Toyota pickup truck lost control, went over the median, hit me head on. The only way I could have responded was if I tried to swerve away, and then I would have went over the median towards the traffic coming my way. So I was hoping he would miss me, but he didn't quite miss me. The car spun around a few times, dashboard fell on my foot. I was stuck. I didn't really realize what was going on. Jaws of life came. The EMS and FDNY came, took me out. Took me to the hospital. What was interesting, I was so conscious. I knew, so there was I told EMS which hospital to take me to. They wanted to take me one that was very close to the accident, but I knew there was one just a few miles away that was an excellent trauma center. So I said, no, we're going to go there. And they're like, well, there's traffic. I'm like, no traffic. This is an ambulance. We're going to go there. I was grateful because what ended up happening when I got to the hospital, I was in a lot of pain, multiple injuries. Every extremity was damaged except for my right arm. Uh, they said, you know, your foot seems to be the worst. We may have to amputate. I said, whatever you have to do to get rid of the pain, just do it. No, no sweat. My shoulder was actually hurting me more than the foot. One of the things that I learned on that day was when you're hurting in multiple places, your body only feels one of those places. So even though the foot that was crushed was the most severely damaged, that's not what I felt. But anyway, luckily I went to that hospital. The chief orthopedic surgeon was someone that specialized in feet. We didn't have to amputate, saved my foot. I was in the hospital for 45 days, multiple surgeries on different parts of my body. And yeah, I went through a long rehab afterwards. It was maybe 6 months. I went from uh, a wheelchair to a walker to crutches to a cane. And your body is an amazing uh, invention, or you know, we're all miracles of life here. So my attitude changed very, very quickly. This might have been like 2 days into the stay, or my timing was so off because I was on so much morphine and anesthesia. But very soon, at first, I was like upset. Oh my God, what happened? So on and so forth. But quickly after a short number of days, I'm telling you two, maybe it was three, but whatever, I realized how grateful I was to be alive and how, as cliche as this sounds, Rachel, every day truly is a gift, and I live with that. So that experience changed my attitude towards everything. Uh, so as a result of that, I'm grateful for what I went through. I'm not, I don't play the victim here. I play, this is, it wasn't my time. The creator said, Abie, it's not your time yet. You have bigger things to do in life. So I knew that I had a greater calling. We had a very uh, great run in the supermarkets for a long time. And this was 1994. We sold the last of our stores around 2016, I think it was. So I was still in the business for a long time, but I knew that there was something else out there. I knew that if for no other reason, I had to share this story to uh, motivate people, or at least hopefully help people when they're down and about whatever silliness, craziness might be going on in their lives. That there's something to live for. We were put on this earth to make better for all of us, and that's one of the things that has transformed me. So at the same time, what I ended up doing was I also got a little later on. I got into the world of self development and personal growth, and that has also shifted my mindset in a way that I also have now become I teach people, I train people on what I currently do now. So like I said, I sold the last of my stores. I think it was around 2016 or so. Um, and a year prior to that, I was introduced into another business that I'm currently doing now, that I've been doing for 9.5 years, that has um, helped become my platform to share my story, to help people become the best version of themselves, uh, if
Yeah.
they so choose, if they want to. Um, so that's kind of like, so I skipped a whole lot of years there, but I really that's not the transformative part of the story. What I really wanted to let that foundation that I had from my parents. I didn't realize as a little kid, what did I know? I had two parents that spoke broken English, but they were wonderful. I had a great childhood with them. My father was my biggest fan. I aspired to be as good of a parent for my children as my parents were for me. Some people don't have that luxury or that experience. I'm forever grateful that I had that. I lived from a place of gratitude, and through that experience and the growth that I've been going through now for many years, I become the different type of leader that I was back in when I was in the supermarket world. When I was in the supermarket world, we had a lot of loyal employees. We were very uh, 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 we were the type of employers that people didn't want to leave because we treated people with the utmost respect. But it's a big shift when you become the employer, the boss. Now I'm not an employer anymore. I'm simply a partner, a colleague, a teammate to uh, others, and I just want to uplift them and elevate them to greater spots, to the best spots that they could be in, and also and greater than me, frankly. That's that's kind of some of the stuff that has shifted, and the type of leader that I've become. I network an awful lot. I meet a lot of people. I always try to look for the greatest good within them. And
Yeah.
through that, you meet people you love. And through that, you meet people sometimes that you don't jive with. And that's okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'd love to get into more of what you're doing and
Sure.
what that looks like and how you're networking and all those things. I'd love to get into that. But if you don't mind, I'd like to rewind a little bit to the story of your parents surviving the Holocaust.
Okay.
If you're comfortable expounding on that a little bit,
Absolutely.
I
100%.
wanted to ask is like how what kinds of things they survived. Were they actually at some point in one of the camps? Did they have friends and other family members that were imprisoned or killed? How much of their story do you know, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm happy to share. I thank you for asking me that because it's important for people to know what really went on. Um, so one of the things that happened, they shared um, somewhat as I was growing up, not all that much, a little bit. You know, you get bits and pieces as you, and I learned things. And we had relatives that survived, and I would, go to their homes, aunts, uncles, so on and so forth. Um, but through the influence of my wife Liz, they also did interviews. Steven Spielberg did these archive interviews with as many survivors as were willing to. So I do have an interview of each of them, which was it's also great information. But I'll to answer your question specifically, two different stories completely. My father was in Hungary. My mother was in Romania. I'll do my father's story too. He was taken away, um, and he was in a work camp. So it's not one of these camps that we would know the names of. You will know the name of my mom's. Um, this camp, I think, had something like 800 people at when he got there, and he was one of 18 to survive. He along with one friend of his that he was with the whole time actually survived from there. He had um, two brothers and a sister. They were in different locations in Hungary. They all survived, which is unbelievable. His parents, both of them, did not. So I never met my paternal grandparents. It never happened. Um, my father was also he was a serial entrepreneur always. He was a bit of a maverick. He would like I remember one time he told me a story of how he was able to get like a loaf of bread, which was a really big deal, and he gave it to his friend to hold on to. And then when I don't know, he had to do some kind of a chore or whatever. He came back. His friend was crying like a baby. What's going on? What's going on? His friend's name was Laser. Laser, what happened here? What happened was his friend ate the whole loaf of bread. Couldn't help it. He just did. And my father forgave him. He's like, you did what you had to do. You couldn't. The life then was in a very, very different place. Um, so my mother, different story. In Romania, they took the Jews away a little later in during the period of the war. Um, she went with her sis. She had a twin brother and a sister, and her parents. Her father was sent somewhere else, so he didn't go with them. But the mom, twin brother, and sister were taken to Auschwitz. So, for those that may have been familiar with the movie Sophie's Choice that Meryl Streep was in, uh, at one point she had to choose between one of her two children. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who I never met, was faced with the same decision. When the train got there, they knew everyone that was going to the left was going to die, was going to the gas chamber. Somehow they knew everyone on the right was going to work. My aunt, I think, was 18 and my mom was like 13, something like that. But as just as her brother, but younger boys look younger than younger girls. So my grandmother told my mother, tell them you're the same age as your sister, go with your sister. I'm going with your brother because I'm not going to let him die by himself. And that's what happened. Um, and they knew it. They survived the camps. My mom had like at one time she told me a story of she had like boils all over her. I think it was her feet, and there was a dentist in the work camp area with like a butter knife. She would burn it with a match to uh, sterilize it and rip out these boils and somehow they survived for however long they were there. One of the most difficult things was once the war ended and the doors were open, or the gates were open, they no one left. They thought it was a trick. Then they realized that I think they saw the Russian soldiers come in, and that was a whole nother thing. They had to go from Poland back to Romania, and there's no transportation. It was on foot. Occasionally they would get on some freight trains,
Wow.
but they got home. And maybe 2 years later, all of a sudden, one day, my grandfather came home. He was, I think, in Sweden or something like that. He was really sick. So they didn't know. There was no communication. Another miracle in life. He was the only grandparent I ever knew. Um, and he lived, I was born in 1962. He lived till 1970. So I knew him as when I was a young boy. Uh, I remember when he lived with us for a little while in New York City in the Bronx, and then he went back to. He lived his last couple of years in Israel, and I remember I went on a trip with my mother once without my father. It was the first time we did that, and I remember when we landed, she was crying. They didn't tell me what happened. I was 8 years old at the time, but that's why she went there um, for his funeral after he passed. So, and I don't even remember when they told me that. But uh, so, I mean, those are just some of the brief stories that I could tell you. So, constant survival. So, my mom, after the war, got married, not to my father, to a different gentleman. They had two boys. I have two half brothers. The oldest one was born in Romania. The next one was born in Israel. They moved, and when they were little, the maybe I don't know, 4 and 7, something like that. Her husband went to work one day, had a heart attack. That was it. She had to start all over again. So the life of a survivor. My father was married in Hungary. They had a daughter. Um, so I have a sister that lives in Budapest that I met later on in life because my father had to flee the country. Well, he got divorced first, so he lived there for a year. He met my mom in Israel with these two little boys. He raised my brothers. They got married. They had me. So I, jokingly say I'm the only purebred. But I grew up with my two brothers. My sister also is a half, just like my brothers are. The first time I met her, I was 10. She was 18. We met in Vienna because my parents still couldn't go across the Iron Curtain. So that's why Vienna is very close to Budapest. Um, so that's the close knit family kind of story. Uh, when we moved to the United States, but they lived in Brooklyn because my father's brother and sister lived in Brooklyn. So we moved. That first night we went to visit my uncle. I was a little kid. I was 6 months. I didn't know. I just heard the story. They came home. Their Everything in the house was robbed.
Oh my goodness.
Starting all over again. So,
Wow.
and I bring all these stories up. Why? Because, you know, if this happens, most people will be like, why is this happening to me? What is there a God? How could this be? Um, they did not have this attitude, or at least they never shared it with us. And I'm forever grateful. And that's what I always, that's one of the things that I want to teach my children, or I want to teach other people about living in a life of gratitude is will always lead us to a greater place. I do it every day. I write 5 things I'm grateful for, and 3 things that were great from the day before, but just to put me in the right space. That's
Yes.
part of my daily morning routine.
Yeah.
So, these are some of the things that have defined me to getting to where I am now.
Yeah, and it's amazing because you didn't share the those stories specifically with me till probably our third or fourth encounter. And I was just so stunned that you had that in your background because there isn't a shred of like just anything but gratitude and warmth coming from you. And I'm not just saying that to say that. I really mean that. I felt that from day one. And everyone you've introduced me to is the same way. And so there is something to be said, I think, about people that have survived the fires of life and come through saying what you're saying right now. It could have been so much worse. Yes, it was bad, but it could have been so much worse. And every day to recite what you're grateful for, it's such a crucial practice in my life too, because for a long time, I was someone that would just rehearse the difficult, rehearse the heavy. And after years and years of inner work and other things, I shifted to not just gratitude, but no longer being someone that rehearses the negative,
Hmm.
no longer being someone who just needs to vent. Because that was the thing I just need to vent. Don't get me wrong, there are times where I think it is healthy to share and get it off your chest. But I would just marinate in it, back in the day. And I haven't been that person for a long time. But all of that just to say your story, your stories, um, being related to people who survived the unthinkable, unconscionable deeds of so-called humans in these places. I can't imagine, I can't fathom, I don't think anybody listening to this could. And then you have your own physical crisis with the accident. And yeah, if anybody had a right, a legit reason to say, I think I'm done here. I mean, this is just one thing after the other. But the resilience that you display, and yet the warmth that you display it with, is commendable. And I just really value that in you and in how you talk to people. Because, and this will be a nice segue, I think, to what you are doing now. You know, Abie is very active in the networking world. And even the business that he's in is literally about helping people. And we'll get into that. But for now, I just want to honor where you've been. And I always like to do that, especially when there's been such darkness and difficulty in someone's life. I think it's only human and it's only right to say, yes, you are amazing and you're doing wonderful things, but at the same time, I honor the struggle that you've been through to get here.
I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
I
Thank you.
and that's one of the things that defines me. That's what keeps me going in a positive manner. Um, I've been blessed. I'm grateful. We're all, everyone in the world is a miracle of life. Think, what are the odds that any of us exist? So, what can we do with that gift that was given to us that we actually exist? Um, that's a personal choice that everyone can make, no matter what deal they're dealt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you would now just share with us what this has morphed into, like how you've taken all these experiences and all these survivors' stories and the resilience that you've built in yourself in these years, and what have you turned it into now? How exactly are you helping people, and what is your business?
Okay. So, what happened was I'm going to be very transparent with our audience here because that's just the way I am. And I think you always want to hear the real story from people. The I told you I was in the supermarket world for 33 years. The last year or so, our cash flow started getting a little gray, if you will. It was becoming a little bit of a challenging period. We were at a crossroads where we probably needed to bring up our revenue, let's say 20% or so. Not an easy thing to do in that world with all the competition there is out there. We were also at a point where we needed to upgrade or renovate a bunch of our equipment. That investment would have cost close to $1 million, and there was no guarantee that A was going to lead to B. Getting all this new equipment, maybe creating some new departments was not going to lead to more revenue for us to survive, because we were in a place where we couldn't survive for that much longer at where we were at in terms of revenue. So at that time, I was partners with my brother. We made a collective decision. It was time to move on. We still had value in our leases, so we were able um, to sell and to move forward. We were also looking for other businesses. We knew that even if we sold it, wouldn't have been enough to live on for the rest of our lives. I was introduced into the business I'm doing now about a year prior. But before I was introduced to that, we went to like franchise expos and all. Nothing resonated with us. No type of business really worked. I knew I didn't want to do something in the food industry any longer. Um, I had a lot of experience from we had hundreds of employees, and I knew how to run a business. So what I was introduced to what I currently do now. I work with a company that what we do for people is we give them a better value on services that we already have anyway. We're in 11 industries right now, with a couple more to come by the end of the year. Things like healthcare, and none of these things are connected. And I'll explain that in a very, very briefly. Things like healthcare, cell phone service, energy, alarm systems, payroll, credit card processing, internet connection. So you see, none of this stuff really. How does the cell phone company help you with your healthcare? And when I say healthcare, it's a health sharing company similar to what health insurance is. So it works a little differently, but it's that's turned into our flagship service that I help people with significantly. The costs are typically less than half of what people have to pay with. And then you can go to any doctor you want anywhere in the country. It's true healthcare. It's an amazing program that right now I'm on a mission, on a crusade to just educate people on it. So when I was introduced to this, I'm like, came from a childhood friend of my wife. So I'm like, sure, I'll look at it. In the supermarket world, I was very sensitive towards my expenses because the profit margins are so narrow. And I thought I was doing this anyway, always looking to save wherever I could. Um, so I'm like, I'd love to support a friend instead of just the shareholders of these Fortune 100 companies. And then she tells me, okay, to be a customer is free, but if you want, you can get paid on the bills. So for me, that was a mic drop. I'm like, I'm going to pay the bills anyway. Why wouldn't I want to get paid? That was my attitude towards this whole thing. Now, I've never heard of anything like this in my life. This happens to be, so the umbrella over all of this, over all of these services is a company called ACN, which has been around since 1993.
Yeah.
So over 32 years now. I never heard of anything like this, but I just said, this just makes sense. Why not? You're in essence, you're able to turn expenses uh, into revenue, or so for me, I said that's great. I could help my friends by putting money back in their pockets every month on stuff that they're spending their money on anyway. You're turning liabilities into assets. So that's what I did with. I had a lot of big bills in the supermarket world. An average electric bill was like $15,000 a month. So you get paid on those. It's crazy. Anyway, so nowadays all I do is I share. You want to save some money? I could help you do it. You want to make while you save? I could help you do that. So I coach people, but also utilize this platform because what happens is now I was doing this for a while and I still didn't know what it was, other than I was helping people save money. I would go to I joined 10 days later. I went to an event in an arena in Phoenix with 20,000 people. I still didn't know what this was. All I saw were people from all walks of life being successful by just offering this to other people. So the training is incredible. The self development and personal growth is really, really top notch. And I realized that through this uh, opportunity, or what ended up happening was once I started becoming more and more successful at this, I started becoming one of the trainers of this. And when you're training people, but most of the stuff people don't focus on anyway. It's really people do this for people, and that's really what I'm all about. Um, but at the same time, when I'm on stage training on this, I'm always talking about my story. Now, I don't get into the Holocaust part of it, but I get into my accident and or sometimes it depends, or my previous career, and it motivates people to so that they might want to just get out of a dark space where they're in. Forget being a partner or whatever. It's just being real with people and helping them become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
So that's so this is what I do professionally. And what happened once the pandemic, no, right before the pandemic, I joined a networking group, a networking organization, which I was never really part of a formal one. The type of group where people go around, introduce themselves, maybe share their cards or whatever. Um, and I started meeting people and getting to know them, not to necessarily pique them to become customers. Yes, eventually that happened, but at first it was really about getting to know people and what their needs are, so on and so forth. And then once the pandemic happened, the desire for connection I found to be so strong. All of a sudden, I had friends. I was making friends with people that were all over the country and even all over the world, and through that, this business grew significantly because even we all needed the internet, and we partner with big companies that people are familiar with, Spectrum, AT&T, so on and so forth. So it just made sense on a very basic level. And during that period, this grew significantly. And it continues to, because it's kind of what they call counter-cyclical. So when the economy is a little wonky, let's say, or off, people are sensitive to this. And that's what happened with me here, or that's what's happening now. Even though people might say, "Well, the markets are doing so well." Well, people are still nervous. You just never know. So um, that's been my platform. That's what I do, and I've led a lot of networking groups, not necessarily for my business, but things just happen organically.
Yeah.
I was part of a different entrepreneur organization prior, where it was a group of business owners that's a global organization, but that was a learning based organization more than your traditional networking. But so yeah, I tell people I'm a professional network marketer is really what I am. And the truth is, I never heard of network marketing in my life before I was introduced to this. I must have been living under a rock because I never heard. No one I knew ever did anything like this. But that's okay. And so my resilience, kind of to wrap around a lot of this, was there's a lot of stigma behind network marketing with some people, because maybe they tried to do something and it cost them money, or they bought some product that they might not have needed, or whatever it is. This company works differently, but you still come across people that are that way anyway. They're like, "Oh, this is a network marketing company. I don't want to have anything to do with it." I'm like, "It's T-Mobile. You're using it anyway." Just as an example, but it's okay. I don't take anything to heart. You like it, great. You don't like it, great. It's all good. We're just here to be friends or not, and that's it.
Yeah, so that's really a helpful service to people, and it's like you said, it's another way of serving humanity, being able to tell your story, using your story as a platform, not in a manipulative sort of way, because that's not it at all, but in the sense that it gives you an open door to tell that story. It's similar to how I tell my story and why. That's an incredible thing. I wonder if in the time we have, could you maybe walk me through like a scenario? Like, if someone, I think what's on people's minds in my life right now is the healthcare piece, right?
Yes.
So, so and so has a traditional insurance carrier, whatever it is. Um, but they don't want to have to be restricted to their doctor in that network. Say they want to go see, I don't know, a functional medicine doctor, and they know their insurance isn't going to cover that. How would your company uh, be able to help someone in that situation? And maybe that's not a short answer that we can cover now, but I'm genuinely curious about that specifically because I think healthcare, the people in my world, that is the biggest concern right now, is I don't want to be stuck in this system, but I don't have the money to shell out to go see some naturopathic doctor or whatever the case is. So
Yep.
how would your company handle something like that?
So that's a great question, and that's an amazing point. So I'll tell. We actually can help. Whether it's enough is, but it's definitely more, significantly more than your commercial traditional health insurance. So as you said, Rachel, traditional insurance will not cover anything naturopathic, holistic, an acupuncturist, anything of that nature. So our program has something called a health and wellness credit. Every single month, because they want people to be truly healthy, they want people to take care of their health. So, first off, right off the bat, the typical monthly premium is half or even less than half of what people have to pay anyway. But besides that part, um, if it comes to anything medical, you could go to any doctor you want anywhere in the country. You could go out of state. It doesn't matter. God forbid someone gets cancer. They want to go to the Mayo Clinic or to Johns Hopkins or MD Anderson or Memorial Sloan. They could go. It's not a question. But with regards to the holistic part that you talked about, we give a credit of $150 a month per member towards anything health related. Now, that could be you could that could be a supplement that that you take, an essential oil. If you do like cryotherapy or gym class, yoga class, let's say you do none of that, and but you want to have a massage or two a month, they'll give $150 credit towards that because all you do is submit the bill and it becomes a credit off of your annual deductible. So it's not money. It is real money because it's off what your deductible would be. It's just not a straight direct deposit. Now there's even more to it. There's dental and vision is free. I My goal, if there's anyone that wants to learn more about it, I'm here to share it. Now, it took me a little while to wrap my head around this. I'm just being transparent like I was before because I never heard of it before.
Right.
But once I started learning about it and became a member of it, and I see how much they help people and how the biggest reason is because this is a not for profit. So the money that goes into that everyone pays every month must pay for this health care. And because their cash reserves are so strong, that's why they're giving these credits every month. Your traditional health insurance companies, not only are they for profit, they're for significant profit, they're publicly traded companies. So the more they reject claims, the more money they make. And this is a statistic that's there that's public because these are publicly traded companies. The top seven companies, we know the names: United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, so on and so forth. Those CEOs make $40 million a year. And where does that money come from? It comes from all the premiums and it comes from their profits. So because this is not for profit, it really just helps people. So and it's a big picking point because it's a major savings that we do for people for better coverage. So it's not like one of these things that you get what you pay for. It's this is really better healthcare than anything else anyone could get. And I believe as time goes on, it's a true disruptor in a broken industry.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a real solution in today's not only the economy, but just the angst that a lot of people I personally know feel about conventional medicine. And so it's a really, really good option to know about. I will definitely put all your information in the description of the video. Um, I wanted to mention too that I was looking at the website. By the way, the name of the company, I don't think you've said it yet, but it's ACN,
Well,
correct?
no, I did say
Oh,
ACN is
you
the
did.
umbrella over everything. The
Okay,
name of the health share company is called Impact.
gotcha. Okay.
So Impact Health Sharing is what it is. It's very different than the other health share companies that are out there. Health sharing has been around for 40 years. Impact's been around for 5. It's the most contemporary, modernized. It feels just like traditional insurance, the way they pay. Everything's done electronically. Um,
Okay.
and it's non-faith based, not I'm not saying anything negative about all the other companies at all. I'm just saying this just works in a very modernized way.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's just good you mentioned that because there are faith-based places popping up all over the place. There are
You,
also
you could be an
group
atheist. It doesn't
plans.
matter what your religion
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So I was looking at the website, and one of the features that I love about a company is what they do to give back to the community, to humanity. Would you like to go into that a little bit?
Sure. Great. Thank you for bringing that up. So, one of the things that I love about ACN is they give back to the greater good. We partner with a food bank called Feeding America and Food Banks of Canada because we're also in Canada. Um, so every time somebody becomes a customer on any of our services, and I said we're in 11 industries currently, when someone becomes a customer, we donate a meal to a child in need. So every single year, we're donating millions upon millions of meals to these kids. 17 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from in the United States. That's crazy to me. And what's interesting is I went to one of these Feeding America food banks once. I was at like a networking event where a couple of my friends spoke on various subjects. And I saw a gentleman there with the logo, the Feeding America logo. This was in Westchester County, New York. And I'm like, you work for Feeding America? He thought I was crazy because he goes, no one ever gets excited about this. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, would you like a tour of our facility? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, 100,000 square foot facility, incredible um, what they do for people out there. So these food banks really matter, and that's how we give back. So it's a true win-win um, situation for everyone, paradigm, win-win paradigm, because you're saving money. You might be supporting a friend while you're saving the money, and you're feeding a child.
Yeah.
So I love that whole concept behind the whole thing. So they also give back whenever we have big events. We do them a few times a year in cities. They donate to the Ronald McDonald houses in whatever city they're in, just to thank the city for hosting us. Even though they're paying for it, they thank them. They're always giving back. They actually our headquarters is just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. They built the Ronald McDonald House there, soup to nuts, and it's a wonderful group of people that own it, that run it, that have been part of it from day one, and it's I always tend to migrate towards leaders with whatever I do, and that's what's happened here. I've become friendly with a couple of the co-founders directly, and it's who you're in business with. It's really good-hearted people with the right moral compass. So that continues to evolve all the time. This healthcare, like you said, Rachel, is really good. So I'm here to share. Anybody wants to learn about it.
Yeah, that would be me. Very, very soon after this show, we're gonna set up a time to meet.
All right, cool.
I definitely want to learn more. Where this time has flown, it seems to just fly so fast now. Um, but are there any other thoughts that you have that you want to share? Any other stories? Anything at all?
Yeah. Now to come to mind. First of all, I want to thank you for your platform and for interviewing me and letting me share. I'm forever grateful for you. Uh, so one of my mentors is a gentleman by the name of Jack Canfield. Some of your audience will know who he is, some might not. He was the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. They sold nearly a half a billion books. Anyway, afterwards he created this. He was in a movie called The Secret. He's all about the law of attraction. The success principles is something that he put together. Um, I was just at one of his events. It was his final event because he's retiring next month, 81 years old. And this is the story that I want to share with you. I saw Jack for the first time 9 years ago. I learned this then, and I live by this. And this has a lot to do with what you and I talked about before. It's a formula that he puts together. He calls it E plus R equals O. So what does that stand for? E is an event. An event could be anything. We talked about a few events here. We talked about my accident. We talked about my parents being, surviving through the Holocaust. The R is how you respond. And how you respond will always lead to the outcome. Now, it doesn't have to be something traumatic like what you and I were talking about. Those were some life changing things. It could be something like you got to drive somewhere and you get stuck in traffic. Well, traffic is the event. How you respond to the traffic will lead to your outcome, which could give you more anxiety if you start going crazy, or you might say, you know what? I have an opportunity to listen to a podcast or whatever it might be. Or maybe, I could just speak to someone on the phone to catch up or do some work, whatever. So that if one responds in a certain way, that leads to your health being in a better way also.
Yeah.
So that was one last story that I wanted to share with you. It's also because I was just there and it's top of mind. But I live by that mantra
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think it's something, I don't know that anybody could ever totally achieve that space, but certainly every day I'm working on getting closer to that being my default setting. Um, and I've definitely seen the difference in how not only how things go in that moment, but how things go afterwards and the types of events that tend to happen afterwards.
I think it's important for people to have people in their lives. So, like, let's say there's something, there's that eat the frog syndrome. There's certain things people just don't like doing. But if you have someone in your life that you could just speak with that can kind of put you into a better space, that's key. And that could be, some sort of a coach or it doesn't have to necessarily be therapy. But it is therapeutic. And on some level, we're all coaches.
Yeah, that's what I say all the time. Coaching isn't therapy, but it can be therapeutic. It certainly has been for me at times. And that's what I, you know, strive to be to my clients. So yeah, I mean, we covered a lot in a little bit of time, and so I want to leave the door open for you to share anything else, but at the same time, I feel like this might be a good place to stop. What about you?
I agree. Absolutely. I appreciate you so much. Love being with you whenever we get together, and we'll continue to do so. And I appreciate anyone that has watched this and would love to get in touch. I'm an open book. I'm there for you.
Awesome.
I
Well,
have
thank
no.
you, Avi. It's been so much fun and it's been just so enlightening and inspiring. Thank you for sharing your heart, your stories, and your profession with us. Thank you again, everybody, for watching, and we'll be back again soon.